High-impact death row documentary titles. Subscribe, like, and comment if you're ready to stare straight into the darkest corners of the justice system. Hayardson, because this story doesn't.
We know you're
quit,
hiding
and
something.
neither should
It's
you.
time to come clean.
Chapter 1.
I don't know what you're talking
The
about.
body that
Don't
wasn't
play games
supposed
with
to
me.
exist. The sirens cut to the desert night like a blade. Red and blue lights tearing across the scrubland outside Barstow, California. Highway patrol units skidded to a halt near an abandoned rest stop that hadn't seen a traveler in years. The call had come in just after midnight. A maintenance worker checking electrical lines had found something wedged behind the crumbling concrete bathrooms. At first, he thought it was dumped furniture. Then he saw the hand. The body was positioned carefully, almost deliberately, face turned toward the highway as if waiting to be seen. No blood pooled beneath it. No sign of a struggle nearby. The man was dressed in prison-issue clothing, faded orange pants, white undershirt, clothes that didn't belong outside razor wire and guard towers. A laminated ID card lay on the chest, untouched by the wind. Name, Daniel Mercer. Status, executed. Date of death, 14 years ago. Detective Lena Morales arrived minutes later, stepping past yellow tape with a tight jaw and a knot forming behind her eyes. She'd worked homicides for 15 years, long enough to recognize when a scene didn't make sense. This one screamed it. Mercer had been executed at San Quentin for the murder of a young couple in Sacramento. Closed case. Appeals exhausted. File archived. Dead men did not show up at desert rest stops. Morales crouched beside the body, careful not to disturb the staging. Mercer's face was older than his execution photo, lined and weathered, with gray threading through his hair. If this was a hoax, it was an expensive one. Dental records would tell the truth soon enough, but her instincts were already shouting. This man had lived past the day the state said he died. By sunrise, the case had exploded across agencies. The California Department of Corrections denied everything, insisting Mercer had been cremated, his remains released to family. The problem was Mercer had no family. No one had claimed him. No one had ever asked questions. Until now, the autopsy deepened the unease. The body showed signs of long-term survival. Healed fractures, old scars, evidence of medical treatment inconsistent with prison care. Cause of death was recent. A single injection of potassium chloride, delivered with clinical precision, the same drug used in lethal injections. Someone had executed him twice. As news leaked, the public narrative fractured. Conspiracy forums lit up. Civil rights groups demanded answers. And buried in the noise was a detail Morales couldn't ignore. Mercer's original trial had hinged on one witness, a man named Thomas Klein. Klein had testified that he saw Mercer fleeing the scene of the couple's murder. His testimony had sealed the conviction. Klein was now a respected private security consultant living in Nevada. Morales flew out that afternoon with her partner, Detective Aaron Pike, a former prosecutor who knew how easily truth could be bent in a courtroom. They found Klein cooperative but visibly shaken. He claimed he'd done his civic duty, told the truth as he remembered it. But when Morales mentioned the body in the desert, Klein's composure cracked. "That's not possible," he said, his voice thin. "They killed him. I watched the news. I saw the execution." "You saw what you were shown," Morales replied. "Did anyone ever pressure you to testify?" Klein looked away. Silence filled the room, heavy and damning. Meanwhile, a second threat emerged. A retired prison doctor named Harold Baines had vanished the same night the body was discovered. Baines had worked executions for over a decade, including Mercer's. His house was empty, his car gone, his phone smashed and left in motel trash bin 2 counties over. Morales began to see the outline of something vast and carefully hidden. If Mercer had been spared execution, someone powerful had ordered it. If he'd been kept alive, someone had maintained the lie for 14 years. And now, someone had decided to clean up the evidence. Late that night, Morales returned to the evidence locker. She studied Mercer's ID card again, running her thumb over the laminated surface. Something was off. Under the harsh light, she noticed a second layer beneath the plastic. She peeled it back carefully, revealing a slip of paper, so thin it was almost translucent. A name was written there in tight, deliberate handwriting. Judge Malcolm Hargreave. Morales felt the air leave her lungs. Hargreave had presided over Mercer's trial. He was now a federal appellate judge with a reputation for being untouchable. Before she could process the implications, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number flashed across the screen. Stop digging, or you'll end up like him. And then came the final update from the lab. The dental records were a match. Daniel Mercer had survived death row. But when investigators opened the sealed execution file tied to his case, they found something even more disturbing. Official documents proving the execution had never actually happened, and someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to make sure no one ever noticed. The lie that kept breathing. The sealed execution file didn't just suggest a mistake. It documented a system-wide deception, so precise it felt engineered. The timestamp log showed Mercer had been transferred out of San Quentin hours before his scheduled execution.
We are closely monitoring the situation and will provide updates as they become available.
Order signed by Judge Malcolm Hargreave himself. The justification was vague. Temporary relocation due to procedural irregularities, but what followed was chilling. Mercer was never returned. Instead, a substitute body had been cremated in his place. Dental records falsified. Witnesses coached to remember a death that never occurred. Detective Lena Morales stared at the file until the words blurred. This wasn't corruption at the edges. This was rot at the core. Within 48 hours, the investigation turned hostile. Evidence requests were delayed. Calls went unanswered. Morales' supervisor warned her, off the record, that federal eyes were watching. Aaron Pike recognized the signs immediately. They're circling, he said. They don't know what you know yet, but they're trying to find out. The disappearance of Dr. Harold Baines became the next critical thread. Credit card records showed Baines traveling east, staying off highways, paying cash. Surveillance footage from a rural gas station in Utah caught him limping, his right arm bound. He looked terrified, not guilty. Hunted, Morales pushed for a bolo, but it stalled in committee. That night, she made a decision that would change the case forever. She leaked a single verified detail to a trusted investigative journalist. Daniel Mercer had never been executed. The story detonated online within hours. Protests erupted outside courthouses. Families of executed inmates demanded audits. Judges issued emergency injunctions. And in the chaos, someone made a move. Aaron Pike didn't show up for work the next morning. His car was found abandoned near Lake Mead, engine still warm. Driver's door open. Inside, Morales found his phone shattered against the dashboard. But it was what wasn't broken that mattered. Wedged beneath the seat was a flash drive Pike had never mentioned. Morales took it home, locked herself inside, and plugged it into an old laptop not connected to any network. What she found was a meticulously compiled archive. Court transcripts, internal emails, medical transfer logs, and a list of names. Judges, prosecutors, corrections officials, all tied to a covert program operating for nearly 2 decades. The purpose wasn't mercy. It was leverage. Certain death row inmates, those with no families, no advocates, were secretly removed before execution, officially dead, unofficially alive. They were transferred to black site facilities, used as labor, test subjects, or bargaining chips. Their continued existence was a threat held over powerful people. Obey, or the truth comes out. Daniel Mercer had been one of them. According to Pike's notes, Mercer had been released 2 years earlier under an undisclosed agreement. Someone had decided he was no longer useful. Worse, he'd started talking, reaching out to journalists under fake names, asking questions that could collapse everything. So they execute him for real. Morales barely slept. Every creak of her apartment sounded like a warning. She backed up the drive, hid copies in places only she would think to look, then did the one thing conspiracy hadn't planned for. She went public. At a packed press conference, Morales laid out what she could legally disclose. Enough to confirm the lie. Enough to make it impossible to bury. She named Judge Malcolm Hargreave. By nightfall, Hargreave was found dead in his study, an apparent suicide. A single gunshot. No note. The timing was too perfect. As investigators swarmed the judge's estate, Morales received a call from a blocked number. A man's voice, calm and almost sympathetic. "You don't understand what you've uncovered," he said. "This system exists because people like Mercer deserved worse than death." "You murdered him," Morales replied. "No," the voice said. "We corrected an error." The call ended with coordinates. Against orders, Morales followed them to an industrial park outside Reno. Inside a shuttered data storage facility, she found Dr. Harold Baines alive, but barely holding on. He'd been beaten, starved, and left as bait. Before paramedics arrived, he grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "They're erasing us," he whispered. "Everyone who knows." "Who's they?" Morales asked. Baines' eyes filled with fear. "Not a who, a structure. He died minutes later." As Morales stepped back into the night, sirens approaching, she felt the weight of the truth pressing down. This wasn't about one judge or one fake execution. It was about a hidden machinery that decided who lived, who died, and who officially never existed at all. And somewhere inside that machinery, Aaron Pike was either dead or being kept alive for reasons she was about to discover. The sentence that never ends. Aaron Pike was alive. That truth arrived not as relief, but as dread. Morales learned it through a fragment of surveillance footage leaked anonymously to her inbox at 2:17 a.m. The clip was grainy, time-stamped 6 hours earlier, and showed a man being escorted down a concrete corridor by two figures in plain clothes. His hands were cuffed in front, his posture rigid but defiant. Even with the bruises darkening his face, Morales recognized him instantly. Pike looked straight into the camera for half a second, long enough to know he understood what the footage meant. He wanted her to see it. By morning, the machinery moved openly. Federal agents arrived at Morales' apartment with a warrant citing obstruction, evidence tampering, and unauthorized disclosure of classified material. Someone higher up had decided subtlety was no longer necessary. Morales had anticipated this. She'd already activated the final failsafe Pike had designed. At exactly 9 a.m., the flash drive archive went live. Every document, every name, every falsified execution, every shadow transfer, every medical log, and judicial signature, uploaded simultaneously to international media outlets, human rights organizations, and mirrored servers overseas. The story became impossible to contain. Governments issued denials that contradicted each other within hours. Former officials resigned preemptively. Others vanished. And then came the detail that broke the public. Daniel Mercer had been innocent. New forensic analysis, suppressed for over a decade, proved the original crime had been committed by someone else entirely. Someone with political connections. Mercer hadn't been spared execution as an asset. He'd been silenced because killing him outright would have raised too many questions at the time. Death row hadn't been punishment. It had been storage. As outrage spread across continents, Morales was taken into custody. Interrogations blurred together. Questions looping, threats implied, but never spoken. They wanted Pike's location. They wanted confirmation that no more evidence existed. Morales gave them nothing. 3 days later, under pressure that could no longer be ignored, a joint international task force raided a decommissioned military complex buried beneath federal land in Nevada. What they found rewrote legal history. Cells, not prison cells, clinical ones, soundproofed, labeled with numbers instead of names. Inside were men officially declared dead years earlier. Some old, some broken, some still sharp-eyed, watching the doors as if they'd always known this moment might come. Aaron Pike was in cell 17. He walked out under armed escort, thinner but unbowed. When Morales finally saw him across the secured medical wing, neither spoke. They didn't need to. The truth had cost too much for words. The trials that followed were unlike anything before them. Judges judging judges. Prosecutors pleading the fifth. The phrase administrative execution entered public vocabulary, cold and bureaucratic. Sentences were handed down, but none felt adequate. Too many decisions had been made by committees instead of hands. Judge Malcolm Hargreaves' death was reclassified, not suicide. An execution ordered by the same structure he once served triggered the moment he became a liability. The system had no loyalty, only continuity. Months later, Morales stood alone at the same desert rest stop, where Daniel Mercer's body had been found. The concrete was clean now. No tape, no sirens, just wind and open road. Mercer was finally buried under his real name, his conviction overturned posthumously. Justice arrived too late to save him, but not too late to matter. Officially, the program was dismantled. Officially, because 3 months after the last verdict, a coroner in northern Arizona reported an unidentified body found near a rail yard. No wallet, no fingerprints on file. Cause of death, lethal injection. The paperwork listed the man as deceased 20 years earlier. Morales read the report in silence, the familiar chill settling in her chest. Systems didn't die easily. They adapted, changed names, shifted jurisdictions. Death row, she realized, had never been about endings. It was about control. And somewhere, buried beneath new layers of authority and secrecy, the sentence was still being carried out, quietly, efficiently, and just out of sight. If this story left you unsettled, Heyertson, remember this feeling. Some truths don't stay buried forever. And if you're brave enough to keep looking, make sure you're subscribed, because the next case goes even deeper.